Good evening. IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Roman. We have a great show planned for you today. But first, forecast from our IntellectualRadio.com Weather Center today. Partly sunny, cool. Of a shower here and there is only like 10 to 20%. High 52 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy and chilly. Low 34 degrees. Tomorrow, partly sunny, chilly. High 42 degrees tomorrow night. Cloudy and chilly. A frost overnight. Low 32 degrees. Wednesday, cloudy and chilly. High 47 degrees. Thursday, snow showers in the morning. Turning colder with the sun playing a tickaboo with us here and there, saying, "Hi, I'm here." Then it disappears again. High 34 degrees. Friday, sunny and crisp. High 34 degrees. The weekend, Saturday, cloudy and cold. High 43 degrees. Sunday, partly sunny, chilly, and breezy. High 37 degrees. The Drive at 5 is also part of the Monday night lineup, with becoming dateable at 11 a.m. Battle Talk Radio at noon, One Sister to Another at 4 p.m., Warrior Talk Radio at 6 p.m., New Black Leadership Coalition at 7 p.m., The Great Entrepreneurs at 8 p.m., and The Chronicles of Ram at 9 p.m. The Drive at 5 is also part of the fabulous 5 at 5, only on intellectualradio.com/iHeartRadio station. Tonight, my guest is the founder of Progressive Minds Show. Also, he wants to unify
the African diaspora.
I would say Africans and African Americans together.
Right.
Please give a Drive at 5 welcome to Selena Alinko.
Okay. So,
Selena.
No, Senna.
Senna Alinko.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Senna. Okay,
Yeah.
I said Selena. Okay, that's my bad.
No. Some will call me Sina. Some will say Seneca. So I try to simplify it for everybody, and I say, hey, you can just call me Alinko, because Alinko is my host name, and it's my AKA. I use it all the time. So anybody struggling with pronouncing Senna, you can call me Alinko as well. So that's fine.
I thought you was about to say that's your street name.
Well, that's my street name.
Okay.
We're in Chicago, so we go to Chicago style. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Please give intellectualradio.com/iHeartRadio station your background.
So, Sana again, I moved to this country, I'll say 11 years now. And I have, of course, graduated from Ghana, had my college degree in Ghana, came here for grad school, and then be in the country, trying to see what I can as an individual, in contributing my quota to my community. I've always been community oriented, and even prior to my coming here, I was organizing a show. Me and a friend started a show called we call it Save the Dance. And Save the Dance is an event that we will do every year for all high school students in Ghana, all high school college, all high schools in Ghana, um, promoting actually creating awareness to stay away from STDs, and creating health prevention awareness. So what we're doing was, malaria is a big situation, big issue, big health issue in Ghana. So we were using that platform as a dancing competition among those high schools. So once we have all of, we will use the platform to promote this health prevention awareness uh, projects, and also sensitize them on staying away from promiscuity, which often leads to STDs and HIV, because during the early 2000s, HIV was very prevalent in Africa and in Ghana as well. So that was my quota. It's just to say that I've always tried to be involved in my community one way or the other. And so I came out here, like I said, went to school, and have been trying to engage myself in community as well. And so I'm a business analyst by profession, and love soccer, love people, and I would say, in a nutshell, that's about me. Yeah, I'm a Chelsea fan. Anybody who is into soccer, Chelsea is a huge soccer club in England, and I'm a big fan. So, well,
Explain to our listening audience about your program
Mhm,
and why people should get involved. You mentioned about the STDs.
mhm,
You mentioned about your involvement
mhm.
in the community.
Right.
But if people listen, you have an organization, a not-for-profit organization.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit about it and why people should get involved.
So the Progressive Mind Show is what I started 2.5 years ago at a Ghana radio station called WGHC. It's located on the north side of Chicago. So Progressive Minds, I would not call it non for profit, but it was a vision that I got uh, based off my observation of the community that I live in, which is, of course, the Black community or the African community. And not just that, but I look at the entire minority communities and I look at it from a very different perspective. And I noticed that the mainstream media and is has a tenant of or has the what I would say relies more on negative news, especially when it comes to the South Side or when it comes to minority communities. They heavily, I would say, dwell on it or promote it. And I felt like there are so many good things that go in our societies, in our communities. There's so many positive factors in our communities. And so, how can I project these positive aspects that I see in our community? So these and other things I observed, and also, of course, also the division that I see within the African diaspora. Now, for the purposes of this conversation, I'll be using African diaspora and Black diaspora for those who might not necessarily be aware of what it really is. So,
What
African
what what is it?
African diaspora.
Yeah.
So African diaspora is essentially everyone who is of the African descent who lives outside the continent of Africa. In this, let's say in the Chicago metropolitan area or in Illinois, all Black people, right, or all people, everyone who has the African descent is classified as, because you are now on the continent of Africa. Or let's say if you find yourself as a group of people living outside your jurisdiction, your original or natural jurisdiction, it's the term is called diaspora. It's like a group, right? So it can be Jewish diaspora or any other race diaspora. But in this case, because we're Africans, we classify and then we feel that we have the African roots or we have the African heritage. We call it the African diaspora, which is made up of the Africans themselves, Caribbeans, and folks from the West Indies, Belize, Haiti, and whatnot, and then African Americans, right? So this 3 or 4 branches are the group that is classified as the African diaspora or the Black diaspora. You see what I'm saying? So that is what it means, if it makes sense.
It makes sense,
Mhm,
but it comes to my question:
mhm.
what you're trying to do,
Yes, so I'll come to that.
which is very hard.
Right.
You're talking about unifying
Mhm,
Africans,
mhm,
African
mhm.
Americans,
And Koreans.
and
Yeah,
Koreans. I mean,
Caribbeans.
Caribbeans.
Yes.
You said
Yeah.
Koreans.
No. Well,
Um,
pardon I meant to say Caribbeans, and it's yes,
Caribbeans.
yes.
Okay,
Mhm,
Caribbeans.
mhm.
My question is, in unifying Africans and African Americans,
Right.
there is a lot of stigma
Mhm.
out there coming from both sides.
Right.
How your organization
Mhm.
or yourself
Right.
can erase the stigma among each other. You're talking about centuries.
Mhm.
And I give you an example.
Right.
Africans view African Americans as lazy,
Mhm.
and African Americans view Africans. You abandoned us.
Right.
You abandoned us.
Exactly.
You traded us.
Uh-huh.
We built this country.
Uh-huh.
Why? Why we should
They try to work together.
work together? If you started this,
Mhm.
there was centuries of
Mhm.
bridging a gap. Nobody didn't try to reach out to us and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, brother, hey, sister,
Mhm.
come back home."
Mhm.
No one.
Yeah.
So, how you expect centuries
Mhm.
and you have old African Americans
Mhm.
saying, because they think we're lazy.
Mhm.
They think we this.
Mhm.
And some Africans do think we're lazy.
Yeah.
Some Africans do think that we don't deserve what we're getting.
Right.
Why is that?
So conceptions is because we don't know each other. We haven't taken time to reach out to each other to try to understand what makes us different. You see, there's the reason why we're segregated, and the reason why you spoke about the division between Africans, African Americans, and of course Caribbeans. I would say Caribbeans, right? So that doesn't come across as
Okay.
Caribbeans. Now, before I talk about that, let me step back a little bit. So the progressive minds. So what we are talking about is what gave birth to progressive minds. So I like to be progressive in my thinking, and so I try to be as open-minded as possible as an African, knowing what I know in Africa and coming here. You see, when you're in Africa, because you are not too exposed nowadays, because of internet and social media, a lot of the youth back home are getting a lot of exposure when it comes to um, uh, you know they are getting both sides of the story. So people are reading and people are getting to know. Even if they're not reading, they are watching. So their perspective to the world is changing a little bit. But back then, all you saw on TV as an African youth is on TV sometimes of African Americans or Black people in America was dancing and entertainment and sports. Okay, so as a youth in Africa, your perception to African Americans is limited to dancing and sports. So that's all you think of them, right? You are not exposed to the intellectual aspect of the African American community.
But a little bit pushback.
Mhm,
You have Frederick Douglass, an
mhm,
intellectual. You have inventors
mhm,
that are intellectuals that
mhm,
are African Americans.
mhm.
Did they teach you that
No,
back at home?
that's what I'm saying. You are not privy to these people. Prior to my coming here, I did not even know. The only person we knew who we assimilate intellect to, or people of leadership when it came to the African American community. We did not even call them African Americans, we call them Black Americans, right? That's how we, because that's all we knew, right? We were not taught of the history in school. Now there's a flaw in our educational system back in Africa, because even our own history, it's not thought thoroughly. So there are a lot of Africans who do not necessarily know the history of the continent, let alone the history of their own separate countries that they belong to. Like, so I'm Ghanaian, right? And I can tell you that I don't know the entire history of Ghana, because I wasn't taught in school. But the little that I know, I've had to learn it, myself, like read it outside the school curriculum. You see what I'm saying? So there's a flaw in that in itself, let alone teach Africans the history of African Americans. So we don't have that knowledge. And so the people that we hear are the Malcolm X and maybe Tupac and Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, even those, we only hear their name because they became world icons, and maybe Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, and whatnot. But Malcolm X more so, and then Martin Luther King, because they became world icons. And so we heard their name, but the impact they had on the the civility of this nation itself is not known to African youth. It's not out there like that. Like, their impact to this society and to the entire world is not known like that. Nelson Mandela, who is an African, who's on a continent, a lot of the youth in Ghana can tell you, or in Africa, some of the African countries, if you ask them who is Nelson Mandela, right? The average guy on the street, or the average youth, they probably tell you, yeah, he was a leader in South Africa. There was apartheid there, and that's the basics.
But why is that?
Because like I told you, the educational system is flawed. Okay, we don't. You see, Africa is not
But
developed.
some people, African Americans,
Mhm,
believe that your history
mhm.
is better than our history.
Well, I don't know. I can authenticate that. If you believe that our
I'm
history.
not saying I believe it.
Okay, you're African Americans.
I'm just
Some
saying
African Americans.
some African Americans,
Right.
because they're saying that, okay, you know
Mhm,
more so about your country
right.
than what they teach in public schools
Mhm,
here in America.
right.
So it's kind of like the Black National Anthem.
Mhm,
I would assume that Ghanaians or people in Africa, they would know that or
Mhm.
probably will not know that.
Let me tell you this, brother,
Sure.
Roman. Even when it comes to the national anthem of Ghana, Ghanaian national anthem, I can tell you that it's not a lot of people, even educated ones, who can recite the national anthem word to word.
Why is that?
Because, like I said, there's a flaw in. You see, America is developed, the Western world is developed, Africa is still developing. The reason why things are the way it is with Africans is because we do not have access to a lot of developmental tools, resources to enhance the potential of the African youth.
Can you elaborate on the resources?
Resources, okay.
Yeah.
So there are natural resources. Africa is the richest continent. Everybody knows that. But we don't, because of lack of bad leadership, we are not able to own our own and use our natural resources to the benefit of the indigents, to the benefit of the people. The reason why I say lack of leadership is that you look at the country and people talk about Thomas Sankara. A lot of people know who Thomas, some know, some don't, but look up Thomas Sankara. He took over a small nation called country, one of the small countries in West Africa, and he renamed it Burkina Faso. Within a few years, he had transformed a poor country without the reliance on the Western world or what do you call it, IMF or whatever. He transformed his country to a livable economy and a thriving economy. He died shortly after that. Fast forward, you have a president like Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Many years ago, Rwanda was had genocide, what you call genocide, and they had civil war, which led to genocide and whatnot. I don't know if you heard about it. There's even a movie called Hotel Rwanda. Okay, the stuff that Rwanda went through. If any African would have thought that Rwanda would be what it is today, and Rwanda is today is one of the leading growing African countries in the whole continent of Africa. That president has transformed a nation that was reveled, a nation that was brought down, like that nation was totally destroyed due to civil war and genocide, right? But within a span of 10 years, Rwanda is on the top of the growing economies, if not in Africa, not only in Africa but in the world. A lot of people are moving to Rwanda now. They are manufacturing cars. They have transformed their country. What I'm trying to say is that Africa, our problem as Africans has been our leaders. In that, even though we have all these natural resources, you need leaders to churn the way. Now, the people that made this country, I mean, of course, we know people built it, but there were leaders who came up with a template, a blueprint that this is the vision we have, and this is how we want to go. This is how we want to go. So they give, they implement policies. Now you might say, oh, some of the policies are not fair and there's injustices, some here and there. And I was sharing with a friend the other day. I told her, I'm like, if African leaders can practice 10% of the kind of leadership America has or the Western world has, a lot of people will not, like Africans, will not even have to travel.
I will push back on that. The same issue you're talking about, that's what Africans are facing.
Mhm.
We have lackluster leadership. The educational system
Mhm.
is dismal.
Mhm.
We just endured a teacher strike.
Okay.
You're saying education,
Mhm.
you're talking about systems is flawed.
Mhm.
African Americans are enduring the same thing.
Mhm.
So I'm seeing a lot of similarities.
Yes.
So why Africans are saying we don't deserve this without looking at our history too,
Mhm.
which you're saying it's not translated across
Right. No.
the
Yeah, it's not.
and but you want to unify it.
Mhm. Right.
Are you saying
Mhm.
that are you using the education
Mhm.
of Africans
Mhm.
and African Americans and joining them together
Mhm.
through education? Like, here's a leader you
Mhm.
should know.
Mhm.
Here's an African American. Here's a leader of an African descent. So here's my suggestion.
Mhm.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Like my mom says,
Right.
you can treat it like a canned good. You can
Mhm.
put it on the shelf and close the cover, and when you want it,
Mhm.
it's right there.
Right.
when you have books,
Mm-hmm.
books that century old,
Mm-hmm.
that Africans are aware of.
Right.
We're not aware. I'm
Mhm.
just saying, African Americans,
Right.
kings, queens,
Hmm.
we're not aware of that.
Okay.
Now, you said Rwanda
Hmm.
is prospering,
Right.
but also Ghana
It's doing well.
is doing very well.
Yeah.
Actually, they're a leading tourist destination.
Yes.
So,
Last year it was the number one
but
growing
it's due
economy in the
to
world.
African Americans exploring.
Hmm.
So, what is the pushback from Africans to Ghanaians?
You mean Ghana, African American,
Africans and African
Americans?
Americans. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's the. I think it's lack of. I would say lack of knowledge of what ties us together, or what connects us. It's just that gap. There's a gap between us, which is again lack of knowledge of who and what how we're connected. You see, like you said, our story is the same. Like we're struggling back home, back in the on the continent of Africa, economic wise. And you're saying that the African American community, and not just you're saying, but I see that here too. Okay, so now I'll go back a little bit. What you see as injustice in America is nothing close to what Africans face from their own leaders, from people who look like them, from people who are just like them. At least here, you say, "Oh, this person looks this person looks that. This person has a different history, and so there's
We
discrimination."
have the Black Caucus
Uh
that does us in all the time.
huh.
You have aldermen that do the same thing.
All right.
You have um, leadership
Mhm.
that represents all levels that do African American
The same. Right.
the same.
So to your point, there are similarities of our struggle, and this is why we have to unify. This is more because we have similar struggles. Okay, leaders fail leaders. Now, comparatively, I mean, I always say your situation is far better because even though the
how
alder,
how
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you why. I mean, even though the alderman, the African American alderman, the African American state rep, or the African American leaders all seem to be failing African Americans. Okay, even though they may not be the most genuine or maybe efficient politicians and doing everything they are supposed to be doing, it's 10 times better, maybe 100 times better than what African leaders are doing. Because guess what? Guess what? At least you don't have to worry. If you will go to the bathroom, you don't. If you go home, you don't have to worry about turning on your light and knowing that it's going to be on. You don't have to worry about getting a warm shower. Like that's the things that you don't think about. Okay, fridge, or like where to get a job at if you don't have a job, unemployment. Like there's some things that you don't stress about. Now, what I'm telling you is that on the normal level, Ghana is doing well. Africa is not the most craziest place to live. But what I'm telling you is that a lot of people, the basics that we don't even think about here, they go home. People go home every day worrying about if the light is going to come on or if the light is going to stay on the whole day, and where can I get water because my water is not running out, and they have to travel miles and miles to get water. Streets are not
But let
done.
me stop you there. People in Flint, Michigan is enduring that right now.
But for most
People,
part,
but I get what you're
yeah.
saying, but you're saying,
Mhm.
okay, the resources, African Americans are enduring the same thing.
Mhm.
People, the light bill.
Mhm.
There are organizations
Mhm.
that is hammering people's energy and ComEd about the high natural resources. Even the mayor said it doesn't make any sense if we're paying this much in water. It's a natural resource. Why do you have to shut them off?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is you have a lot in common.
Yes.
How can we unify?
Fine.
And you're giving
Right.
like, because
Yeah.
it's like this.
Mhm.
You're saying your situation is worse
Mhm.
and my situation is worse.
Mhm.
And
Was
there is
better.
no,
Okay.
well, you can say
Mhm.
worse, better,
Mhm.
better, however you
One
deal
way.
with
Yeah,
it,
you're right.
but it's still that separation.
You got it. You're right.
My thing is, you're saying, like you said earlier,
Mhm.
education.
Mhm.
You have books
Mhm.
and knowledge that I don't have as an African American.
Okay.
How you expect me to kind of like, and I'm not saying I'm one of those people,
Mhm,
but how you expect me
mhm.
to unify? Explain to intellectual radio. Explain
I,
how the
I,
unification among
I'll talk about the
the people.
yeah, I'll talk about the unification. And I didn't mean to cut you, but see, the books that you talked about that we have, like you said, we have natural resources, we have stuff, but we don't have access to it as a people. How is it that African politicians are the most richest people among the African people on the continent of Africa? If you want to be rich quickly, your best bet is to join politics. So what I'm saying is that
Same thing for African
for
Americans.
Americans, okay,
So
right. So each way we're in common. Okay. So here is where I think that we have to unify, right? Like you said, how is it that we have some books and you don't have access to some of the books you're talking about? We don't even have access to. There might be stories that some foreign people came to Ghana or to Africa to study and wrote it on our behalf. Because most of the textbooks that I read in school were not written by Africans or Ghanaian teachers; they were written by foreigners. So that's what I'm saying. So textbook we have history, but we're not informed of our history because we are not taught the history because we are not allowed we don't have access to library. You can just go to a library and pick a book. The culture of reading is not there. There's very high level of illiteracy because it's not because people don't want to go to school, but they just can't afford the school or it's not there at all. So now let me come back to as unifying. Since it seemed like, based on the conversation you and I have just had, it's obvious that we have some things in common. We have some struggles in common. If we are in the diaspora, most Africans that live here, we spend 90, 80% of our life here. So we're Americans. I mean, we belong to the society. We belong to the same society as you belong to. However, in this country we find ourselves, like of course in America, specifically Chicago, other communities, even though they have smaller groups, they come together for the goal of forming a bigger community. Because until you become big, until you have leverage, which that is why even companies merge. Why would Comcast? Why would Chase? Or they're already big. Why would they want to merge with another big company? Because the bigger you are, the more leverage and power you have, the more influential you are, the more you are able to do big things that will not only benefit your circles, but will go beyond your circles and have worldwide impact. Let me bring it down. We know the Asians have a community. If you go to Chinatown, it's not only made up of Chinese. Taiwanese are there, Koreans are there, Vietnamese maybe. But and it's not because they just want to go there because that's the only place they can find Chinese food, but they've created a culture that if we find ourselves looking alike, if we're from the same continent, or at least if we have the same heritage, and we find ourselves in a foreign land or some, in a diaspora, we have to think of putting our resources together. We have to find ways of working together so that we can better form a coalition to and form policies that would be beneficial to the people that are in our communities. Now, if African Americans are working separately, right now there's reparation. The struggles that you go through, you're dealing with it separately. And Africans, yes, immigration, sometimes job issues, we're dealing with our situation differently. Caribbeans are doing their situation differently. I feel like we're all the same, and everything we are talking about, we're connected one way or the other with the same struggle that each community is dealing with. So how is it that we are not thinking of, or we are not at least considering? Now, I'm not saying the unification should start today, but at least let's create the awareness and say that we have some things in common. We have underlying, there's a common denominating factor that binds us, that connects with us. So let's encourage our leaders, the leaders in our communities, right? The African, Caribbeans, and whatnot. Let's start thinking of how we can combine our resources. Because, like you said, there are some things as Africans we have. A lot of things you African that you may not have. And the same is true vice versa, right? African Americans you build this country. When it comes to the knowledge that we lack, some of the information and the developmental knowledge and skill set and professionalism that you all have, It's not, we don't have that in abundance in Africa. More so the African American, the African community. When we come here, that's why we take education very serious, because that's what we don't have back home. So we want to study, we want to die for the education, we want to get that information. So now we are learning, right? We're learning your system. We're learning from you. You already have what we're trying to study. So what I'm saying is that if you have that, and we have resources back home, and we're also intelligent once, how is it that we are not talking to see how we can utilize what we both have and what we both, so where you fall short at, we may come in, and where we fall short at, you may come in, and the Caribbeans may come in. Before you know it, we're combining ideas that is transforming our inner communities, because there's an African out there or Caribbean out there that may have made a lot of money, or that may have had a lot of connection to resources that can be combined, right? That when they when they sit down with an African American and say, how can we help build a library on the south side, or put up a grocery store on the south side, which would provide people of the south side or some of the poor communities, right? Poor communities. How can we set up a business? Because I'm telling you that there are so many wealthy Africans and Caribbeans who have resources and are doing things back home in the in the original countries where they come from. Those resources are not necessarily invested here. I don't. Some Africans may be investing in America in poor communities, but I don't know a lot of them. What I'm saying is that I want to encourage that. And because if until we start putting that mind, until we start having that mindset of investing in here, working with the people that are already here, and building a stronger community here together, our children will grow up and find a very more segregated African diaspora or black community compared to what the Indians, the Asians, the Hispanic have.
True. There's a lot more to this conversation. I would love to have you back.
Mhm.
We're running out of time.
Okay.
So
All right.
please tell us about your event that's coming up.
Okay, so the event is the exchange. The exchange is basically it's 400 years since the people of the African heritage got separated. And in this momentous season of ours, also in the year of return, which has been declared by the president of Ghana, which is basically asking all African Americans to come home. We felt that is the right time to connect these three branches of the African diaspora, African heritage, to accept to accept or to acknowledge that 400 years ago or many years ago, we were people that lived in unity and peace. And as a result of middle path separation, we have been separated. So after 400 years, we're coming together to acknowledge our oneness. We're going to be celebrating our excellence. We're going to be encouraging the acceptance and the understanding of who we have become, right? Because back then, the African is African. We didn't even have different countries. The Europeans came and gave us boundaries, even in Africa. So we want to use this moment to sensitize these three main communities to say.
So what is the contact number?
The contact number is
Yeah.
815-409-9123, and the venue is at the Dusabo Museum. Date is the 16th of November, from 5 to 9 p.m. 16th of November from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Dusabo Museum. There's going to be libation, there's going to be prayer, there's going to be awards given, there's going to be a lot of activities, again, conscientizing our community that the Black heritage or the African diaspora has one heritage, and we're coming together to acknowledge that after 400 years of separation.
And because of that,
Yes.
And you have one more, but you got to do it very
Right,
quickly.
I'll do it quickly.
Though.
Okay. So if you want more information on the exchange, you can go on Facebook, type 400 years, and then type Unifying the Black Diaspora. You see there. You can also get tickets at Eventbrite, Progressive Minds Eventbrite. You can go on my website, theprogressivemindshow.com. You get a lot more information on this. Now, as a result of what we're trying to do, integrating our community socially and economically, this Buy Black Saturday is on the 30th of November from 11 to 9 p.m. 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. The National Black Agenda is part of this. Ramonsky Love is your MC, co-hosted by Raven Fellows. Another co-host is Karen Hicks. The date again is the 30th of November, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Here in Chicago is by Black Saturday. By Black Saturday, and I'm trying to find the venue.
Well, we'll
We'll
post
post
that
that on okay.
yeah, on Black Services,
Okay.
Black
All right. Okay.
So to be continued, we will have you back
All
so
right.
we can argue more.
Okay.
When we come back on the drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station, a black owned and operated beauty supply store that sell and only black products when we come back on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. Thank you so much. And we're back on the drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. My next guest is a young entrepreneur who uses her talent to showcase black owned and operated beauty products in her beauty supply store. The store is called House of Melanin, located in Oak Park. Please give a drive at 5 welcome to Maisha Nicole. Welcome to the drive. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Well, I try. Please give intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station an update since the last time you was on the drive.
Oh wow, it's been a while. So House of Melanin has officially been open for 1 year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's a big deal for us in small business world. Getting to that 1 year marker. So we've been open for 1 year, and we are growing our community. We're growing our brand name, and we're excited to start expanding soon.
So, what inspired you to create a black owned and operated beauty supply store with black owned beauty products?
So to be quite honest, there is a huge gap in the beauty supply industry where we're not in control of what we're manufacturing, we're not in control of what we're selling, and we're not in control of what we're distributing. And when I say we, I mean African American women. We comprise most of the billions of dollars that's spent in the beauty supplies industry, but we don't control any of it. We control less than 1% of it. And so to me, that signified that we needed a change. We needed to be able to take control of that market. And understanding that need for a change became real to me. And I had to do something besides just talk about it on Facebook and complain about it. So I made sure that I did my part to put things into motion.
African American women has a lot of beauty products in comparison to other races. Why is it important for Black women to support and buy Black beauty products that is geared towards them?
So the difference between a product that is owned, manufactured by a Black company, and the difference between one that's not is the ingredients that I found thus far are superior to the ones that are not necessarily designated intentionally for us.
Can you elaborate on that?
The products are more natural. They're more, they're focused on the different needs of our hair. So we know as African Americans that none of us have the same two types of hair. Your mom has different hair than the daughter, than the sister. And we understand that dynamic. But when you're dealing with a company that's not Black owned and operated, they don't necessarily understand that dynamic or understand that different types of ingredients, such as shea butter or olive oil or orange juice, react differently to different types of African American hair. And so when you're choosing an African American brand, you can be confident that each and every one of those ingredients has been specifically chosen for a specific reason. And to be honest, and I'm sure you've had this discussion come up on your show before, it's been estimated by the year 2053, the average Black net worth, the average net worth of a Black family will be $0 if we continue to spend and be consumers in the patterns that we have been, and if we do not become owners in all of the markets that we're currently consuming. And so by me making the decision to do everything Black, pretty much, selling Black products, using Black real estates, my landlord is Black, everything that every partner that I bring in is Black. And so by doing that, and I spend Black as well. So by doing that, we are furthering that economic line where we're pushing that a little bit higher every time you purchase and support House of Melanin. So it's twofold with us, triplefold.
As an owner of a Black owned and operated beauty supply store that is geared towards and designed for Blacks with Black products, can you tell us about the challenges you face as an owner?
The challenges that I face as an owner are really internal challenges because my background is in healthcare. So getting into business is relatively new to me. And so the challenges that I'm incurring are really just losses that you kind of have to take when you have to learn something new and step out into a whole new world that's kind of foreign to you. So I haven't had any other challenges other than ones that I'm presented with for personal development.
As an owner, I just wanted to know your take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On this show, there's a take on the Korean nail shops
Mm-hmm.
and how Black women should stick together money wise if one is disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Koreans have beauty supply stores.
Mm-hmm.
They follow Black women and Black males around.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with beauty supply. You saw on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
the disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
So, as an owner, how do you feel about that?
First of all, I'm a child of God first, and I'm Black second. Okay, so as a Black woman, it's disrespectful all the way around, no matter how you look at it. But it's not really relevant to the conversation that has to be had. The conversation that has to be had is, what are we doing and what areas are we creating so that our Black consumers have somewhere to shop? I can't always focus on what the Koreans are doing or what they're not doing, or what the women who decide to continue to support them for whatever reason or another. I can't focus on that. What I have to focus on is making sure that I'm creating spaces where Black women can come and feel appreciated, and making sure that I get the word out that those spaces actually exist.
But again, we had these conversations with Black owned and operated nail shops, as well as beauty supply stores. And if it's not majority, they say the Korean nail shops and beauty supply stores are cheaper than Black owned.
Mm-hmm.
That's majority of the
Yeah.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know from your perspective as an owner, you hear that from Black women.
Mm-hmm.
How do you hear that of the behavioral traits? You said you don't want to focus. You want to focus on House of Melanin.
Mm-hmm.
You want to focus on that and bringing the word out.
Mm-hmm.
But when women say, because of the stigma and the behavior out there, House of Melanin is probably expensive. What you say to that?
I say you can check the reviews. You can check the reviews. You can check the response that people have gotten when they come to House of Melanin. There's an entire experience that's to be had when you step into the House of Melanin. The experience is something that someone of Korean descent or someone of non-Black descent could never reproduce. And that's something that I always stay true to. When you stay true to yourself, people will gravitate towards that. And as a Black woman, we have something special about us, and there's something special that connects us all. And so when I choose to magnify that sauce that we have, that special sparkle that we all have, and I focus on that and I blow that up and I magnify it's something that you're willing to want to experience. People pay for experiences. They don't necessarily pay for just the product that they're getting. They pay to have something to discuss. They pay for something to be able to share about. They pay for a memory. That's what you're paying for. And so I give women that experience, that appreciation, when they come into House of Melanin. It's more than just shopping.
Can you elaborate on that experience? What are some of the features in the House of Melanin?
So a lot of us are product junkies. Whether you wear your hair natural, whether you're wearing it in a weave, a wig, a sew-in, whatever you're wearing. And we go to the stores and we have been presented with so many options and we have no idea what to pick and what to choose, except we go on someone else's opinion about what we should use. And like I said before, all of our hair is different. So just because it worked for your mother doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to work for you, because if you and your mother have two different textures and types of hair, it doesn't matter if it was made from the sweat off of Jesus's brow. If it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you, and it's not going to work. And so when you come into House of Melanin, you can be assured that you're getting matched up with products that are actually going to deliver the results that you expect for them to see, based on your level of expertise with your own hair, based on how much time you have to dedicate towards your hair, or how much time you don't have to dedicate towards your hair. And that goes for men and women and children as well. And that's an experience that you don't get. You walk into a store that smells amazing, that is bright, it's clear, it's transparent, it's beautiful, not just because it's mine, but because that's the way that it was designed. You get greeted immediately. We can talk in a safe environment about the things that we want to talk about without looking over our shoulders to see if someone else is listening in on our conversation, because it's just sisters talking. It's just us. It's just Black men talking amongst each other. And we're just talking about our hair. We're talking about the things that unite us and make us
you
sing.
Create a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this unique product that you described last year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe it again? It's called Hair DNA.
Right now, that technology is is currently under patented review.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
not too much. It's not
I'm
too.
sorry
Yeah,
about that.
it's okay.
I
It's
didn't know.
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Let you
It's
know I do my
fine.
research.
You
So
remember, and I'm
yeah.
glad. I'm
So
glad you did. But right now, we're under patent review for
okay.
that technology. But you guys, everyone can look forward to that, and that kind of brings me to the next point where I want to be able to create that experience for every single location, no matter who is working that particular day, that they are able to get that same experience.
Okay. And I'm sorry I
You
didn't
fine. You
even know.
fine. You fine.
So let people know how they can get in contact with you
Yeah.
and how they can come to your store, get the experience, and how if an aspiring entrepreneur that's out there that want to get in contact with you about their products so you can put on the
Okay.
shelf.
Okay. For sure. So, House of Melanin is located at 262 Chicago. Ridgeland and Austin. So we're a little bit closer to Ridgeland than we are in Austin, but we're right in between those two streets. And you can contact me via Facebook, direct messenger, or you can also contact me at the store by the store's number. We're listed on Google and Yelp as well. And you can read some of the reviews that some of our customers have left. And right now, people can look forward to seeing a lot from House of Melanin. Our ultimate goal is to make sure that we are giving the community what the community needs, which is more Black-owned businesses. And so, for anyone who is looking to open their own beauty supply store, we will be debuting opportunities for other Black families to get into the beauty supply industry with a proven method that works for them to generate cash flow. And be able to create generational wealth for more Black families long after I've been gone and left this presence of this earth. And so
Why are
that's
you
what people
talking
can
so
do.
negative?
Well, I mean, we're all guaranteed, but we have to have some sort of generational wealth that lasts beyond us. We have to get out of the mindset of just living for right now while we're here on this earth. We have to think about, well, what's going to happen when I'm gone? What's going to happen to my family's wealth? You know, you have to be an avid CEO of your last name. So that means that you have to be thinking far ahead for your future of your family.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to do.
You are presented our ways with Black products and Black services. So whenever you want to advertise or something, it's always available for you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So that's going to do it for us on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeartRadio station. Thanks to Wanda, who is our executive producer, Earl, who's behind the scenes. You guys have a wonderful week.